Welcome to Playful Beginnings, a podcast about the magic of play therapy for therapists, students, and anyone interested. In our podcast, we'll explore the deeper understanding of play therapy and the skills we use when working with children.
We hope to help you understand the why behind what we do and how it helps kids heal and grow. I'm Dr. Christy Opiola, a working play therapist and university professor in North Carolina.
I'm Dr. Maggie Parker, a play therapist and professor in DC. Good morning, Christy.
Morning, Maggie.
How are you doing?
Good. It's an early morning for us this morning.
It is early. I appreciate it. Christy has been very flexible. So I might have to have back surgery.
I know, y'all. Maggie is not
Falling apart.
all the cares we do to ourselves.
Yep. Falling apart. So
yeah,
to leave early to go to the doctor. So thank you for being here.
Yes.
Kind of basking in the glow / recuperating from a week of conferences. Christy had 2 that she had to go to across the country.
Yes. It was good though. I was sad to leave APT early. It's a conference I look forward to all year because I like to be with my fellow-minded peeps. And sometimes I feel like as play therapists, we live on islands.
Yeah, it does feel like that sometimes.
Yeah.
So it was really nice.
Yeah. And I had to run to another training, which was also fantastic and great, just very different.
Yeah. And people played our bingo. We had, I think, 4 winners. So that's exciting. They were all excited. So next year, if you come to APT, we're going to do another bingo. And that was fun. Kathy Levy was like, do I get to play? It's like, you do get to play. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. We saw a lot of fun people and
a lot of great presentations.
Lots of great presentations and just caught up with friends.
Maggie got an award for serving to the field of play therapy.
I did get an award. I got slightly emotional when it was all happening.
I was so sad to miss it.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was fun to look out into the audience and see the people that helped get me there. Like Dee Ray was there, Sue Bratton was there, Mary Morris and Bennett, Kara Carnes-Holt, Nick Cornett. So many of the people that I went to school with and who taught me. And so that was really cool. And Christy, you did a great presentation, a discussion group.
We did. We presented on some of the work that North Carolina APT has done in wake of Hurricane Helene, and really came, I think, in the presentation to realize how unique Helene was compared to most natural disasters because there was no infrastructure, there was nothing, it was in a remote area. And so the typical things you would do for disaster relief did not apply to this area or we couldn't put into place. And so we're hoping actually maybe to start a tool for other chapters and then kind of want to get it outlined and then work with APT's international office to see if it's something that we could get their support and supplement to make it available to all the state chapters. So if you do have something and have both, when natural disasters are pretty normative and then when they are unique, to have avenues or multiple avenues for people to use this tool. So
yeah,
my list to, in all my free time, to work on helping to create, because I would not want people to kind of feel like they're wandering like we felt after Helene about how do we support our locals, our peers, and the children of Western North Carolina. So that was fun. It was also still very raw for us. So I co-presented with a fellow board member and a clinician who actually lives in Western North Carolina. And I think it was still working through some things. So it was a presentation, but also you could feel the palpability of the impact of Helene still today, even though we're over a year out now. Yeah. We just celebrated our year anniversary at the end of September. So
yeah, it still felt real. I mean, it's real
still recovering.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah, some buildings haven't been touched yet. Some communities, are forever changed. There's still people missing. There's still whole communities that have not gotten the support they needed yet. So it's interesting.
When it seems like that would be really relevant to what's happening in West Texas right now or Central Texas. Mm-hmm. And because there are still people missing after those floods. And it just reminds me a lot of after Katrina. I know we weren't play therapists at that point, but just seeing the impacts and how much it was, New Orleans obviously was impacted, but
Mhm.
it's really important what you're doing because these happen and we haven't created that resource. And so if you're able to do that and really support people, because unfortunately it seems like these are happening
Yeah.
more often
Yeah.
or they're
And,
just happening. And
and
so,
maybe I'm more aware of it, but it seems like the less expected is happening more and more. And
mhm,
but we also, a lot of things are about 100-year mark. So the last time these experiences happened, because Western North Carolina had a flood over 100 years ago. West Texas had a flood over 100
right,
years ago, right? Like, so it's kind of like we're at that 100-year mark where we're seeing like these resurgence of different natural disasters. And then you also have man-made disasters that we haven't talked about. But yeah,
right. That's a whole
that was
other,
yeah. So that was it was a good presentation. It really kind of got me thinking about, how can we take this experience and really help others with what we kind of learned and the expertise in the room. A discussion group is always an interesting presentation to go to because people come in with shared experiences. Some people come in with no experience and just curiosity, but there were a lot of people who are in areas that have regular natural disasters, like we had several clinicians from Florida who are accustomed to flooding and know what to do, or Southern California or California as a whole, right? That maybe used to things like mudslides, earthquakes, fire.
right.
And so they have like a whole way of managing that and infrastructure. And they kept just saying, you had to be prepared, you had to be prepared. And we were like, we were prepared for the western side of our state is, I mean, the eastern side of our state is prepared for hurricanes. The western side of our state in
Yeah,
the mountains is not an area that would tend to prepare because typically they just get some rain. They don't get the amount of rain and the amount of a storm. So it just, you know, a very different experience, but it was fantastic. You
yeah.
too, Maggie, you had a presentation and a poster, I believe.
Yes, I had Dr. Samantha Long presented her dissertation research that I was her chair on, and there are long days and the posters are late, and but it was really fun, and I got to speak with another UNT graduate. She was there before we were there, and she did CPRT. She lives in Korea
Oh, yeah.
with Korean adopted family or with Korean children in the orphanage. And that was really cool to talk to her. And so that was fun. And then we also did a discussion group with Kara Carnsholt, and I didn't know what to expect. I haven't done a discussion group before. And we did ours on a study that we had done during COVID on the duality of being a play therapist and a mother. And so we weren't a very diverse group in that in some of our identities, but more so in like what we do in our with play therapy. We had two faculty, two private practice clinicians, but it was really powerful, and I didn't anticipate how powerful it was. And we had some who wanted to be mothers, some who had lost children, and one man came because he was like, I want to support my supervisees, which was really powerful. And another woman came to support her supervisees who she did not identify as a mother. And it seemed a very cathartic experience for where people felt seen in a way that perhaps they hadn't felt seen. And we kind of normalized some of our own experiences with what they were experiencing. And they also were like, we need more support around this. So I did reach out to Kathy Levy. I mean, and just said, I mean, why not volunteer for a whole other thing? I'm like, oh, geez, I gotta step. But it was really powerful. And of course, like at some point I needed an Advil because my back hurts really bad. And so we played a scavenger hunt in your bags. And we were like, okay, who has a Matchbox car? Who has markers? Who has Kleenex? Who has a snack? And then the last one was, who has Advil? And I was like, that's for me. Thank you. So we brought some fun to it, I think. Yeah, it was really great. It was more powerful than I anticipated or expected. So
That's awesome.
yeah. So APT was a great success. I
Yeah.
slept better during APT than I'm doing at home, which is, oh, I needed some alone time.
Well, and I think, yeah, just the demands are different when we get to go away to a conference.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of refueling at conferences because we get to reconnect and, fill that bucket a little bit. So,
Yeah, it was funny. I was talking, and we'll go into the topic now, but I was talking to Kara Carnes Hole, who's at UC Colorado Springs, and we were joking. We know each other so well. All of us who go to these conferences once a year, and we get into the nitty gritty of life and our experiences and our pains and our triumphs, and we don't know each other's spouses. It's like this one little thing, and then it's okay, bye, love you. And then we see each other next year. So
I know one year we have to do a family reunion of all the people that we know so well at APT, where you actually bring your partners and your kids and other things. And
wouldn't that be fun?
maybe we need to go to a beach or go somewhere.
Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, so it was a huge success.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, what were you thinking? We're still doing skills. Let's
Yeah.
recap some of the skills we've done. Re tracking,
Yep.
reflecting content,
I'm feeling
reflecting feeling, returning responsibility, choice giving,
setting.
limit setting. We've got those.
Yep.
Okay. And today we are
Out esteem building. The
Esteem.
playroom. Yes.
Yeah.
And this kind of aligns. I hope you guys are seeing a little bit of some trends here where we've grouped skills together that have some similarities and also have some differences so that, it's not just a random throw a skill at you each week. We are thoughtful about what we're picking, why we're picking it.
Yeah. And so I forgot we also did encouragement versus praise, which was
Our
last
last.
episodes. So we're kind of we record these and then they come out maybe 3 weeks later. So you're probably heard us talking about going to APT 2 weeks before we actually went. And now you're hearing us talking about APT, which actually occurred probably 3 weeks after or before you're listening to this podcast. But
That's okay.
it's fine. It's fine.
Real time versus, distribution time.
Yeah, as much as I love Armchair Expert, we just don't have the time to record intros and fact checks after. So this is how it's going to go for right now.
Maybe in a year we'll figure it out, Maggie, and we can have it all.
Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah. So, Christy, how do you describe esteem building from a child-centered perspective?
I describe it as a way of building a child's self-concept, as well as this idea of them having more awareness, kind of who they are and both their strengths and weakness areas, so that they have more self-acceptance internally, because the reality is we're not all good at everything. I also find that esteem building to be a really powerful tool because I think it helps kids feel valued, capable, and seen to the point of they don't have to change who they are in the playroom. They get to be just as they are with us. So it kind of builds that intrinsic worth, intrinsic locus of control, and a sense of competency for kids.
Yeah. And I think, you're saying we're not all good at everything and not beating ourselves up for that. So kind of realizing that I think we hope that they discover that innate belief that they are okay,
Mhm.
that they are worthy and capable just because of who they are. And it's not something that we can give to a child, right? Like it's not something that we are here. If I do this, then
Yeah.
you will have that. It's
Mhm.
it really kind of centers back into those ways of being and that innate beliefs or that strongly held belief system that we have, that children have the innate capacity for this. And so how are we being within this room so that they can discover and strengthen it within themselves through our therapeutic relationship? That it's not, I think sometimes when people aren't familiar with CCPT, it's, oh, if I do this, then this will happen. And it's not something that we are doing to a child. It is something that we are being within our relationship that the child can discover or rediscover or strengthen.
Yes. Yeah, I also think of it often as a way to build resiliency in kids because right? Because they have a better sense of self, and when they feel more competent and they have a stronger self-esteem or self-worth, then it's easier for them to maneuver when life is not going well.
Yeah, that I can handle this. And I've, I guess this is probably more concrete in CPT, but sometimes I remind myself when, as an adult, you are capable of doing this. This may be new, this may be hard, and you have the capacity to do it. And I think those are kind of the goals that we're wanting children to have, that also, especially I think in like teenage years, of it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to feel anxious. I am capable of holding these feelings and sitting with them, and that they're not going to last forever, and that I can inherently I have the capacity within myself to handle these things. Because especially when they're teenagers, because of their emotional lability and impulse control and risky behaviors, we want them to be able to know that they have the capacity within themselves and that they can rely on themselves, that they don't have to rely on peers that may not always have their best interest at heart. They don't have to rely on adults, that they can rely on trusted adults and they can rely on trusted peers, and that they can also rely on themselves.
Yeah,
And I think that's a big one,
I
which
agree.
aligns with choice giving too, right? The capacity and the returning responsibility. And again, this is how they kind of all work together towards the same kind of goal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just pulling a section out of the CPRT manual because I think it really highlights why esteem building is important. And just a reminder for folks that CPRT is us teaching parents some of these skills, but these apply to us too in the playroom, as well as to places in classrooms and other places. So the section on esteem building, which is session 8, 7, 8, hold on. I'll tell you. Session 7. It says that parents help their child feel competent and capable by first allowing the child to experience what it is like to discover, to figure out, and to problem solve. Parents show faith in their child and their child's capabilities by allowing them to struggle with a problem, all the while providing encouragement, right? Which is what we talked about last week. For most parents, allowing children to struggle is really hard. This is true for play therapists too, by the way.
Yes.
But it is necessary process for children to truly feel capable. The next step is helping children develop a positive view of themselves as competent and capable, and learning to respond in ways that gives child credit for their ideas, their efforts, their accomplishment without using praise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And
So
I think
like,
for teachers too.
hmm,
Yeah.
yeah. So really that idea of giving a kid, right, that freedom in the playroom to explore, to try out new ideas, to not give them solutions or guide them on how they can make it easier on themselves. All of that is a really healthy way of helping them feel more competent and to know, right, when life gets tough and things are not an easy answer, I can stick with it and I can figure out a way to get through this, which ultimately will help them feel right as a more competent and capable individual and really increase how they view themselves. So increase that self-worth as well as esteem.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important. It's
Yeah.
so valuable.
And I don't think kids get enough of that sometimes. I think the world's around us, it's easier to discover for a child, to problem solve for a child. And within the playroom, we're really giving them the opportunity, right, to discover for themselves, to explore for themselves, to figure it out for
Yeah.
themselves and problem solve it.
And I this just reminded me of a time where you really helped me with this when I was a parent. I was down, we were presenting at UNC Charlotte, and my child had shared something in class that scared people that he had heard somewhere else, right? Normal kid behavior, bus. And I was, well, I should probably talk to him and tell him to apologize. And you
Mm,
said, I'm pretty positive that they are capable of figuring out how to repair that relationship for themselves and that you don't need to tell them how to do that. And I was like, you're right. And they did. And I didn't need to do that. And I've watched them in these capacities, mending relationships and holding themselves accountable and doing these hard things. And it's really neat to watch. And had I stepped in that moment, I don't know if 2 years later they would have been able to do the things that they were doing in their own relationships without my guidance.
Well, and I just think the power of the trust that you had in him in those moments too, right? That you knew that he could do it without you stepping in to do it for them. Just the belief of someone else, the trust that you had in them, right? I also think is a huge esteem builder for kids. Like, gosh, my mom knows I can figure this out. And
Yeah.
even though sometimes I may not make the right choice,
Right.
they have a belief in me. And that's the same
Mhm.
belief we want to give kids in the playroom is that we have this belief that they can get to this moment, this place. And
And I think it can translate too with older kids. And I know I'm kind of taking us off, but when we've talked about before developmental considerations and working with older kids and baking, and that's such a great place. And, one of my children this weekend created their own recipe and they're very excited. And they've created their own recipes before, and sometimes they turn out and sometimes they don't. And this one did not turn out. I was like, oh, yeah. And they were, yeah, the marshmallow fluff is the only good part of this. Oh, yeah. You put a lot of things in there and you tried and it didn't work the way you wanted. And I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, it's okay. And they're like, let's do it again. I was like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah. I also think it then, even just talking about older kids and how this does apply to, outside of that 3 to 9 range is a really important concept because I often hear I do play therapy and then they turn 9 and then I do something else.
Right.
And the reality is the theory doesn't stop at age 9. It's not like we drop this theory and go somewhere else, that you can really continue with it, continuously follow this. I
Mhm.
know it was burned in our brains in our master's program and in our PhD programs, Maggie, that theories are lifelong models, right? So it's not
Yes.
just in this age group that we do this. It really
Not
is
something that you do,
meant
it's
to
something you
be
believe.
that you follow through throughout a lifespan. And so sometimes I know we get dinged as play therapists, in particular as child-centered play therapists, that that's a stage that you provide this and then you do something else. But those of us that are CCPT are also person-centered, right? We believe this
Right.
across the lifespan, and I'm going to be maybe shift the tools that I use, right? My toys might shift a little bit, but the way I'm responding, the set of skills I use across the lifespan, I use with adults, I use with teens, I use with families, I use with parents, and I use with kids.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really important. And I hope that throughout this podcast, that's what shines through. And we may not always have child centered people on, we may explore other theories. And that doesn't mean that's just to help people recognize these
Sure.
differences aren't things that you pick and choose. They are they're belief systems that relay across. And so if these belief systems resonate with you, then that's something that you hold on to, and that you can, you know, find support as to how this relays itself across the lifespan. But it's not something that you pick and choose, right? It's not like, oh, okay, well, today I have an 8-year old, so I'm going to do Esteem building.
Right.
And we'll go into that too as we go through our next chapter on diagnoses and how child-centered aligns with different diagnoses, because that's a question that we often get. And you'll probably hear us repeating ourselves a lot there too, because this is a fundamental belief. So, yeah. Okay, let's see. Do you think we've kind of covered the what? Have we covered the why?
I think there's a few that we've touched on, but I don't think we've expanded fully on.
Sure.
And so one that reaches out to me that we've talked on this idea of problem solving, exploring new things. I think that happens when kids feel capable. So by utilizing esteem building responses, what we're really helping them do is encouraging that growth, right? And really nurturing that active, oh my gosh, why did I just blank? The actualizing tendency within the child, right? Because children naturally go towards growth, but when they're constantly stunted or told they're not capable,
Mhm.
sometimes they that may slow down or they may not have the faith in themselves to be able to. But when they do feel more capable and they feel accepted for exploring, then they're going to continue to try and explore new ways of doing things. So that might be problem solving different things, that might be trying out new skills, a sport or art, or, maybe something outside of their wheelhouse that they're able to do. So they're continuing to move towards, them being their greatest self.
Yeah. And that I think so often we as adults in all settings look to
Mhm.
behaviors as the behaviors need to change or the behaviors thing. And I wonder how much of the ways in which we try and control behavior and control do this and do that. And by saying do this and do that, if you're not doing that, the message might be internalized as I'm bad or I'm not good or I'm not capable. And so when we come into the playroom or in the classroom or as a parent in our, unique little playtimes, not little, unique playtimes together, that with that unconditional positive regard, they're able to experience themselves being accepted for exactly who they are. And then when they feel that acceptance, they can begin to explore and try out different things and their own capabilities and
Yeah.
trusting their feelings and their thoughts to hopefully internalize that belief system of I can handle this. I am capable. I am prized. I am valued. Not even I am worthy of prize. I am worthy of value because even when we say I am prized or I am valued, that is almost an implicit that someone else is valuing me. But the valuation of oneself, I think, is what we're going for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I think anything else on that.
I don't think so.
So then how? It happens all the time. I think it's because it can happen through the reflection of feelings, right? Like
Mhm.
you're proud of how tall you made that.
Yes.
You are excited that you figured that out. It can be how you are tracking. Oh, your work, you're carefully lining them up. You are doing this. It can be process. You're really concentrating, you're
Mhm.
working really hard, you're focused. I'm trying to think.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing about esteem building is that other skills accomplish esteem building as well. And that's what Maggie's talking about.
Yes,
Like,
thank you.
that sometimes it's not just a singular response, it's our intention behind the response and how the child internalizes the response. And so that's what she's talking about, that we can reflect the pride that they have within something, right? So that reflection of feeling, and what that's doing is helping them recognize, right, their inner worlds and accept those inner worlds, as well as we don't tend to be product based, but kind of the process of them getting to problem solving, getting to creating new and creative ways to do something. All of that can kind of play into it.
Yeah, because it's really through our tone and consistency and our presence that we are expressing that they are worthy, capable, important.
Yeah.
And so if we're presenting that, and so that should be presented within each of the skills, including limit setting,
Yep.
that they have the capacity to bring themselves under control and that innate belief that we provide instead of saying, no, don't
Mhm.
do that, or good job. We are inherently placing that onto the child of that esteem building of that we trust you and we value you and we know you're capable of doing it. And so it really does infuse all of the skills that we use. There's not necessarily one esteem building skill.
No, and if I was to list some that maybe you'll see in textbooks and stuff, they sound a lot like encouragement. The wordings, you did it, you figured it out, you decided how you wanted that to go. You're determined, you aren't giving up, right? You have a plan. We probably spoke of those last week when we talked about encouraging statements too, because they have similar foundations, and we're really reinforcing that idea of the effort that you put into it, and that grit and tenacity, right? That builds resilience, is an important factor to know that you are capable and that you're recognized for that process.
Your capacity and And
Mhm.
yeah. And sometimes you shared this, I can't even remember what skill you shared of trying to figure out the spelling of something and it taking the whole session. And it
Ability.
wasn't about the way it was spelled, it was their determination, it was their focus, it was their desire, it was their grit, their
My trust in the child to be able to come to a solution, right? And when someone has that level of belief in you, right, then you start to believe it too. And I think that's an important quality is that, that when we give kids opportunities and we show that level of respect, we show that level of trust, we show that level of acceptance, that
Mhm.
it really doesn't matter how it turns out, right? You are going to feel better inside, even if you struggle.
Even if you struggle. And sometimes that, I think, really recognizing after the struggle, the excitement that they share is really important, that pride,
Mhm.
because we often don't talk about how proud we feel after we try. It's, oh, good, you did it, right? And there should be pride. And sometimes we don't recognize the pride, or we try and tamp it down or say, don't brag, but they're excited about the work that they do and sharing that with the people that they care about, right? I got home at 12:30 a.m. on Saturday night, and I had a sticky note on my door, on my front door, and it said, "Mom, I hit a triple. I'm so proud." And I was just like, "You did hit a triple. You are proud. That's exciting. And I'm so glad that you feel comfortable sharing that with me because you worked so hard."
And it's not so much the accomplishment of hitting the triple. Do you know what I mean? It was that he was really proud of himself, or she was really, I'm not sure which one it was, but that, your kiddo was really proud that their hard work, their ability to stick with it, right?
Mhm.
That's what got them to the point of,
And they were proud because they helped their team, right? Because that got their team three runs, three, they got to score three. It was bases loaded.
whoa.
Tell them I was watching it while at the airport because that's what I do with my life. But that was so exciting, and the fact that they were safe to share that excitement, I think, was important.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And we talked about with encouragement and praise, your tone, how you display empathy is a really important component of esteem building. Because I think if we overemphasize something that the child is not feeling, right? So if you're more excited than the child is that they accomplish something, that can then lean
And the
to
message,
praise
yeah,
over encouragement and esteem building. And so then they're, but I don't really see value in this, or wow, you're really blowing this out of proportion. Is
maybe
this a
this
big
is what is important.
know what's happening, right? Which then doesn't match what the intrinsic experience of the child is. And so we do need to be careful when we are using a lot of these CCPT skills that, we take time, work a little bit on ourselves so that we can be real and authentic in our responses, and we can be attuned in a way that helps match what the child is experiencing and feeling in that time. Because you did it can be as powerful as you did it, right? Depending on where the child is. So just a subtle message can be equally as powerful as a big celebratory message. And it is more impactful when it matches where the child's at in the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting teaching this class right now with a lot of people who work with early childhood. And there is this elevation of, you did it, you did it. And I think there's I don't know where that comes from, that we need to be extra. And sometimes kids are like, okay, and it does relay the message of what's important in that relationship. And so if we put the importance on something and the emphasis on something that's not being shared by the child, we are also then leading the session and telling them what we value and what we find important, which is not what we're trying to do in child centered, which is to value what the child finds valuable and to reflect what the child is experiencing as opposed to our reaction to their experience.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
When it's like, have you ever seen families get so excited when their first steps, and you're like, and it's like, okay, well, now I know this is important and I shall walk everywhere. Granted, that's just a natural developmental process.
But I think that's where it starts, right? We kind of get And I think that's an authentic response. They're equally as excited as the kid is. The kid just doesn't know to get excited yet. It's, they're propelled to want to try something different. And it does show them what's valued and what's not valued in ways, but we don't want to be as leading in the playroom because we tend to lead towards things that maybe makes us more comfortable
Right.
or accomplishes more for us than what the kid is needing or wanting
Yeah.
or his intention in the moment.
Yeah. Well, so I need to head out to go to the doctor. Is there anything that we missed that we need to share?
Think so.
I don't think so either. I think this was pretty, and most of our skills I've broken up into the what, the why, and then into the how. And I think our next couple episodes will not maybe need to do that because they kind of encapsulate what we've already discussed within our skills. So yeah.
Yeah, no. I think many of us are already doing this. We're just not
Yeah.
recognizing how it plays within the intrinsic value to that child and how it does build their self-worth, their
Mhm.
resiliency factors, these other capacities. So it's about how we talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Christy.
Maggie, thanks, listeners. Don't
Thank
forget, please like and subscribe to our page here. And if you have a topic or a question, or you want to share an experience with us, you can do that at info@playtherapyspace.com, or you can email us individually, Maggie@playtherapyspace.com, or Christy at playtherapyspace.com.
Yeah. And we've heard, I know I'm late on emails. I need to own that right now. And also, we've had interest in supervision groups or consultation groups. And so we are working on that. We're trying to find a spot in our lives where we feel we can really focus and provide you with that because that we want to be offer you something that is meaningful.
Yes,
And so we're trying to figure out how we can put that within our own bandwidth at this moment.
because we don't want to do anything partially. We
No,
tend to do things well,
we try.
give it the effort that we would like. So
Okay.
yeah,
Well, thank you, Christy.
Maggie, everyone have a wonderful day. Maggie, I hope all goes well at your doctor's appointment.
Me too.